Today we're going to talk about the 2004 WWE Draft Lottery. This was the first draft lottery. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, they split up the rosters and did a proverbial draft in 2002 when it changed from WWF to the WWE. And you would be right, but this was the first draft lottery, with Paul Heyman representing SmackDown and Eric Bischoff representing Raw, drawing picks for their brand. Everybody was eligible, whether you were a mid-card champion, a tag team champion, a women's champion, or a world champion. You could be swapped from Monday to Thursday, or from Thursday to Monday, or Raw to SmackDown, or SmackDown to Raw. Now when you go back and you look on the grand scheme of things, this was WWE at its peak during the Ruthless Aggression era. I mean, you had the former owner and manager of WCW and the former owner of Extreme Championship Wrestling live on WWE programming, creating or building their rosters. Think about it, WWE, ECW, and WCW all in one area. That's what made WWE so special at this point in time. But the question is, what were the draft picks? Who would move from Raw to SmackDown? Who would move from SmackDown to Raw? And how would the landscape of World Wrestling Entertainment change? Well, the first draft pick up was something I don't think anybody would have expected. It was a member of a tag team, showing that tag teams could be split up. And it was Rene Dupree, member of La Resistance alongside Rob Conway, and he would move over to the SmackDown brand, thus kick-starting his career as a singles competitor. To be the first overall pick in the draft is a big deal. Usually that goes to world champions or soon-to-be world champions, which shows how high-ups in the WWE felt about Rene Dupree, and not so much about his tag team partners in Sylvain Grenier or Rob Conway. Dupree's SmackDown career would kick off hot, as his first feud on the blue brand would be against John Cena, heading into Judgment Day 2004. This is where John Cena would get the one-up on Rene Dupree. They would have a few more matches where Cena would come out victorious, but Dupree would at least get one win over the future multiple-time world champion in John Cena. At the time, the feud with Cena didn't mean too much, but looking back on it, it was a big deal. Rene Dupree would then go on to tag team with Kenzo Suzuki, and they would even win the SmackDown Tag Team Championships off of Billy Kidman and Paul London, after Kidman kickstarted his heel turn on the blue brand, turning on Paul London and disbanding the tag team, all in a losing effort with the championships. In another notable addition to the blue brand, Theodore Long would be drafted over to SmackDown, thus disbanding his partnership with Jazz. And later on in the night and future weeks going forward, we found out that Theodore Long would become the new manager of SmackDown, or the new general manager of SmackDown, after something very interesting happened later on in the night. That being the fact that the former SmackDown general manager and Paul Heyman would be one of the draft picks where Eric Bischoff would select him to move over to Monday Night Raw, and this is something that Paul Heyman was not enthused by, and I think this was just a great addition to the overall drama of the draft and the storylines, because I don't think anybody would have expected Bischoff or Heyman to be one of the selections to move brands. There would be two massive draft picks taking place on this night. The first being Triple H, drafted from Monday Night Raw over to SmackDown, and later on in the night, he would challenge the WWE Undisputed Champion in Eddie Guerrero for the championship on this show. Nobody would have ever expected for Triple H to be drafted over to SmackDown, but after the draft, he wasn't actually drafted to SmackDown and he would stay on Monday Night Raw. He would be drafted over to SmackDown later on in around 2008, but this was a nice little idea. I wish they would have gone through with it and actually had Triple H compete on the blue brand back in 2004 when he was just this mega, chicken shit heel, or, the final boss, so to speak, of the WWE. The second massive draft pick, at least in my opinion, was the future Rated R superstar Edge being moved over to Monday Night Raw from SmackDown. Now, Edge was a former part of the SmackDown 6, which is something I covered on other videos on the channel for the SmackDown Tag Team division in 2002 when it was run, or started to be ran, by Paul Heyman. Edge would win the Intercontinental Championship when he moved over to Monday Night Raw, and this would move us into 2005, where Edge would become the first ever Money in the Bank match winner, which would lead to his first World Championship run at New Year's Revolution 2006, where Edge waited almost a full year to cash in, but would cash in on the WWE Champion in John Cena after he moved over to Raw in 2005's WWE Draft, and he would defeat Cena to become the World Champion. Other notable picks in the draft would include Shelton Benjamin being broken up from Team Angle alongside his former partner in Charlie Haas, moving over to Monday Night Raw, which would kickstart his singles career, and Rob Van Dam becoming Mr. Thursday Night, moving over to SmackDown, which is coincidentally run by the former leader of his ECW Brotherhood in Paul Heyman. The former five-time WCW champion in Booker T was also drafted to Thursday Night alongside his tag team partner in Rob Van Dam. However, they were the World Tag Team Champions for the Raw brand, but they would go on to lose these championships to two members of the faction known as Evolution in Batista and Ric Flair, crowning new Raw Tag Team Champions. The final discussion-worthy draft picks for this night for the first ever 2004 WWE Draft Lottery would include Spike, Dudley, Bubba Ray, and Devon being moved over from Monday Night Raw to the SmackDown brand. They would go into a brief feud with the returning Phenom and The Undertaker following WrestleMania 20, alongside Booker T, who we just discussed was also moved over to SmackDown. Tajiri and Rhino would also be moved over to Monday Night Raw from the SmackDown brand, but I don't think it's too noteworthy. The only reason I'm including it is because Eric Bischoff promised a World Heavyweight Championship match to the next draft pick he selected, and that ended up being Rhino, so Rhino would challenge Chris Benoit for the World Heavyweight Championship on this night of the draft. However, he would come up in a losing effort. And that's about it when it comes to discussing the first ever WWE Draft Lottery. I would say the best picks from this night would probably have to be Shelton Benjamin to Raw, Rob Van Dam over to SmackDown, Edge to Monday Night Raw, and then Triple H to SmackDown, even though I'm not including it as an actual pick, but based on the drama and everything. It was like when Cena got drafted to SmackDown in 2011, and then back at the end of the night, he got moved back to Raw. But yeah, that's it. That's my breakdown of the 2004 WWE Draft Lottery. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and smash the notification bell with a 5-star frog splash or a sledgehammer if you're feeling like a heel today. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out. Have a good night, everybody.